Good afternoon. It's Robert and Julia Miller with Rethink Real Estate with another exciting real estate update.
And so thrilling, so thrilling.
Unlike the market that we're in right now,
Right.
which is considered very boring.
Very little is changing, but we're going to go through it anyway. Let's start let's talk March stats.
So we enjoy bringing these real estate updates to you so that you can be better informed when it comes time for you to buy or sell a home. We work pretty exclusively in the West Valley, and we specialize in active adult communities.
So hopefully you find these videos informative and you call us when it's time to make those decisions.
31 plus years now of real estate experience between the two of us. Julia has most of that experience. But, so yeah, let's get going. We're going to cover three different aspects of the real estate market today. The Cromford Report, which we went over their summary on Monday, right? Yeah, the 7th. And then we're going to touch base on the Sitzer-Burnett lawsuit.
That burning lawsuit against NAR.
A lot of moving parts going on behind the scenes, so we want to kind of update you of what's going on there and how it's going to affect how you buy and sell a home in the future. And this all goes into effect in July, so it's coming up pretty rapidly. A lot of changes. And then we're going to touch on the CPI report that came out today and how it affected the market.
All right, let's jump right into that Cromford Market Index, Cromford Market Report.
All right, go for it.
North Peoria is hot on the development for West Valley.
Yeah, the area between Loop 303 and State Route 74, that big swath of land there is really, they have some big plans on that, including the possibility of an airport. That wasn't everybody's
thumbs down.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't enjoy hearing that. Some people did. So it was kind of a mixed bag, but I would say more people were going, we don't need an airport right now.
Right. So, yeah. A lot of development also, Chandler, and these are East Valley communities, so Chandler and Queen Creek, Maricopa, so a lot of development there. But as far as West Valley, where we work at, North Peoria is hot. A
lot going on right now.
Yep. So that's great. Let's see here.
Some of the other things that we learned, we always get a lot out of the Cromford reports of Valley-specific statisticians that really dig deep into what's going on in real estate, and they're very transparent, and they ask, when things don't make sense because the data is dated, and they're using it to generate drama clicks on the internet, they will call it out, which we really like.
For instance, affordability in the news, and I'm not going to say what news source this is from, but here's two headlines. Arizona now one of the 10 least affordable states for home buyers, new data shows.
What was the date on that one?
That's March 7th.
Okay. What's the next one?
Then March 25th, a few weeks later, Arizona is the third most affordable state to live in, data analysis shows.
So less than a month apart, we're the worst and we're the best.
We're the worst
and this
and
is
we're
the
the best.
same news agency reporting this data.
Yeah.
So another thing we learned, income per capita is a terrible way to measure affordability.
Yeah.
And the example that was given was a family of 2 adults and 2 children make $100,000 a year. Okay, according to the way the per capita is calculated, you have to divide that by 4 because there's 4 bodies living in the house.
Even though not all 4 earn money.
So that means the per capita income is $25,000. obviously nobody can afford a home for
Living off of
making
$25,000.
$25,000, but that's what the news agencies are
Right.
grabbing a hold of and go, it's totally unaffordable to live here
Yeah,
based
so,
on the per capita number.
right, so that first headline that we went over, Arizona now one of the 10 least affordable states, was based on, as you say, this per capita thing. Arizona's 2023 median home value of $428,492, or 6.9 times the income per capita. Again, this goes back to the family of four earning $100,000. Per capita of $62,000 according to the study. So come on now.
Clickbait.
So we'll go on over that.
The other thing, affordability indexes, you want to take them with a grain of salt, and this is where you get into the staleness of some of the data that they use. For instance, the current affordability index is using 2021 data.
Right.
And these types of indexes just do not work in a very volatile market. If things are very flat and unchanged, okay, but in a volatile market, those numbers just don't work when you're using 3-year-old data. It's
We
just
say that,
impossible.
we say all of this to say, watch, okay, if you read a headline, great. Read through it, the
Find out where they're
report.
getting their information from.
What are they
and,
basing their report on?
dig a little bit deeper.
Because it's not always correct. So,
All right, what other stats you got for us?
let's see here. Well, kind of funny. We're talking about mortgage predictions. Most of the predictors are that they'll glide down, and then today happened.
We'll touch base on that in a little bit.
More on
Yeah,
that
that's
because
gonna,
it did react. The mortgage rates have already reacted to the CPI report. So
Yeah, and today was a really important day.
Yeah.
It's going to really push things back, but we'll get into that at the end.
so the question still is hanging out there. Are we heading for a recession? And the talking heads are 50%. Some say yes, some say no. So it's yes, no, yes,
Just depends on
no.
who you listen to. Everybody's looking into a crystal ball, so who
Right.
knows?
And I think one of the things that will have to happen for it to be finally announced as a recession will be that unemployment rate. And we're just not seeing that unemployment rate go down. Employment is still strong across the United States. So that's one thing that's still hanging out there. The Feds don't meet until May 1st. That's their next meeting. Obviously, the CPI report will have a bearing on what they say.
I think today's report will pretty much make the May meeting inconsequential, but again,
Yeah.
we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So basically, the real estate market will continue to be boring. We had until summer. I'm going to say through summer into
Yeah.
fall.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Um,
CPI across the valley is about 112. The CMI, Cromford Market Index.
Right.
So this is just an index on the reading between demand and supply and where we're at.
Are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market,
Right.
with 100 being balanced?
Straight up and down, basically being balanced, and whether it's leaning towards sellers or buyers, and we're pretty much balanced. We're at
It's
112.
almost perfectly balanced.
Just slightly into the sellers. 20% demand is 20% below normal. Supply is 29% below normal. Supply is rising. Demand is just flat right now.
A couple of standout areas. Buckeye is the highest buyer market. That index number came in at 64.5.
Yeah.
So buyers, if you're looking for an area to explore that you might have your best chance of getting a bargain, take a look at Buckeye. Chandler came in as the highest seller market, 211%.
Ooh, what are you doing down there, Chandler?
Yeah, if you are looking to buy and you can pick a different area,
Yeah.
don't pick Chandler. Sellers, if you're in Chandler, it might be a good opportunity to make a higher than
Right.
higher than current market
Yeah.
on your home. So
Yep. Peoria is a seller's market, but just barely at 111. Let's see. Surprise is not even listed here. Let's see if it's over here. Sun City West, it's at 75, so that means we're buyer's market.
buyers market, buyers, come
We've
on.
got a lot of inventory.
Yeah, we do
So,
237
that's
homes as of this
a
morning.
lot
here
to
in
choose from.
Sun City
Yeah.
West.
So what that means for you buyers is the sellers should be pricing pretty competitively to get their home sold. So that's great. It's great for you.
A lot of bargaining power.
Mm-hmm. All right. Average sales price, 3-month moving average, of course, when you're looking at the, what is it? Case chiller. But basically we're at a 7% year-over-year increase. So that's good. Now we're expecting that to flatten as we move into the summer months, as it always does. So let's see, month over month though, for March to March is 6%. So again, this is your average sales price per square foot. And this is valley-wide. This isn't for specific. If you want to know specific to your area, you can always ask us what's, the price per square foot, or we don't have a problem in, and always love to help you with knowing your home's value, and we can kind of dial that in a little bit better than just a zestimate, just an estimate, which our website gives you, by the way. You can go to MteamAZ.com and get a home valuation, unless the website's acting up for some reason. Every once in a while it does. But you can always email us and say, hey, I'd like a quick valuation, and we can give you a range, or we can come and meet with you, go over your home's individual upgrades and updates, and just see what your home would be worth on the market if you were to put it on the market today. Sorry for that quick commercial break. Comes out every once in a while. But yeah, as we move into summer, we will see the price per square foot flatten just a little bit, and that appreciation number flatten.
Right now, we're averaging year to date, we're at 4.8% appreciation. However, again, grain of salt, the luxury is very hot right now, and the
Right.
luxury market is kind of pushing that number up. So 4.8 is probably at the top of the scale on, if you take luxury out of that, we're probably 3.5 would be my guess, somewhere in that range.
I didn't write any numbers down. I don't think I have any slides on it either. But for some reason, during the summertime, a lot of people will take their homes off the market, as luxury homes, or the sales just don't happen as much on the luxury market during the summer. So
Yeah, very seasonal. I'm not sure
seasonal,
why.
yeah.
I couldn't tell you why, but luxury is a very seasonal market.
Yep. Contract ratio, we're at 51.4% or 51.4. So that's good. New single home family permits is adding to the supply, so builders are optimistic.
Yeah,
Builders are having a good
continue to do well because they're able to subsidize the interest rate and offer.
Yep.
I'm seeing 5.5, 4.99 interest rates. So
Right.
that certainly helps with the bottom line and what that mortgage payment's going to be every month.
Another hot headline that you'll see is the sales rate is 12%, but that's not the full story either. That is based on how many days in the month there are to close homes. So last March there were 316 versus this March there was 304. For whatever reason, I think it was the holiday weekend and stuff. I don't know for sure why, but so sales days are at 0.4 year over year. So it's not really 12% increase. So anyway.
Okay. So does that wrap up the Cromford Report?
Yeah, we're still seeing quite a bit of seller concessions. 46% of homes that sold in March had seller concessions, so just
Which
be
you're
aware of
going to
that.
see in a balanced or buyer's market, you're going to see seller concessions.
And that goes to the point of it's very market specific. So like say here in Sun City West, you're not going to see as much. In some instances, sometimes you'll see seller concessions for painting, interior painting, let's say, that they don't want to do. The seller doesn't want to do, so they're willing to give a concession to the buyer. You go do it, you pick your color that you want, here's money to go do it at closing. So that's considered a concession. It's not really concession towards buying down an interest rate because we just don't have that as much here in Sun City West. But there are concessions for other things. So really year over year change is very minimal. Like we said, statistics are boring. I probably won't even go through all these. We'll go on to that hot, juicy lawsuit.
Okay, so pretty much everybody that watches the news at all knows that there was a lawsuit that was filed, been brewing for a few years, and it finally came to head. And
Yeah.
it was recently settled with the National Association of Realtors agreeing to pay a pretty hefty fine, $412 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Roughly $412 million over a 4-year period.
Right.
But the biggest change is that they're going to adjust some rules about how homes are sold, how buyers and sellers and commissions are involved, and how those interact.
Yeah, we really haven't talked about it just because we wanted to see how it was all going to unfold and when it was really going to start changing things. We've kind of already started changing how we do things a little bit.
And Arizona has actually already kind of jumped things moving forward. They're now allowing in the MLS, when you list a home, you can offer 0 as the co-broke compensation.
Right.
So
Tell us what that means. What's a co-broke?
well, when a seller lists a home, the typical commission agreed upon in the listing agreement with the listing agent will be 5 to 6%, and that is typically split between the seller commission, the seller agent commission, and what will be offered to a buyer agent when an agent brings a buyer to the transaction and it successfully closes.
Right.
In the past, the rule was that you always had to have some compensation, even if it was only 1%. Now it can be 0.
Right.
So that's a new change. The crux of the lawsuit is that the sellers felt it was unfair that they had to pay the
Right.
buyer's agent.
Right.
So that's going to make a number of changes starting in July. We will be required to use a buyer-broker agreement.
Yep.
So what that means is before you can take a buyer out to show them homes, you have to have a written signed agreement to the effect of how the compensation is going to work. The buyer essentially is going to be committing to whatever gets negotiated between that agent and the buyer as the buyer's compensation. Now, that being said, that can still be offset by whatever commission a seller is offering. So for instance, if we sign a buyer-broker agreement for 2.5%, which is the rate that Julie and I charge for our professional services, and the home that they are interested in has a buyer-broker offer of compensation of 2.5%, then there'll be no compensation cost to the buyer.
Right. There's no gap between the two.
But let's say that they are only offering 2%, then the buyer will be responsible for 0.5% to make up for the shortfall of the 0.5%. So
Right.
that's how that piece is going to work. And this becomes totally negotiable. The commission rates typically were already preset when the listing agreement was taken, and it was set in stone and it was not negotiable.
Right.
Now, the buyer can negotiate the compensation with the seller. So say we're in that scenario where we're half a percent short, the buyer can negotiate that as part of the purchase contract to say, hey, I need you to pay my agent a full 2.5% instead of a 2%, where they never had that option in the past. So that is another change that's going to happen. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. For instance, according to the rules right now, and we're hearing two different stories on this, but my understanding is with VA buyers, they are not allowed to pay a real estate compensation. Whether that gets changed, they're working with the VA right now behind the scenes, but you know, that's going to be a different aspect that'll have to be looked at whenever it's a purchase that uses a VA loan.
And there's also the question of, on a VA and FHA, how much the seller can contribute, because if the seller's contributing towards paying the buyer broker, is that the way it's going to show up on the closing statement, or is it simply going to be how it shows up now? It's a seller fee, doesn't have anything to do with the buyer. So there's a lot of little questions, and this all is going to be determined by mid-July. Mid-July is when this has to be
all these changes take place.
Started, yeah.
Right.
So we have a little time to know and understand what AAR, Arizona Association of Realtors, is going to require. And
so be prepared, especially on the buyer side, that you're going to be, before you even go out and see homes, you're going to be signing a document for a buyer-broker agreement, and you're also going to be having probably a rather lengthy conversation on exactly how this process works and the different scenarios that could come up during the process, so that everybody is fully aware of what's going on.
Right.
Everything is totally transparent and there aren't any surprises.
Correct.
So what the effect of this CPI report today will be is pushing everything out farther. There was hopes that if it did come in at 0.02 that the Fed may reduce the Fed rate, which is the rate that banks charge each other for borrowing, possibly in May, but that's just not going to happen.
No.
The Fed is not under pressure because it's been a really long time to lower the Fed rate just arbitrarily. They are determined and committed and stake in the ground that they are going to have to see improvement in the inflation rate to a standard of a mark that they've set of 2%. We're going to have to be approaching that before them to do anything with the interest rate.
Yeah, they're pretty hard set on that 2%.
They're just not going to budge. They're not going to move on that. They've made that very clear. So we had originally hoped that by summer, I was hopeful that June we might see a positive number out of the CPI, and we would see maybe at the June meeting they would make a move. Now that's kind of gone out the window. The probability of that happening, I think, statistically is about 2 or 3%, so it's really not going to happen. So I think now we're looking at late summer or early fall before we're going to see a possible rate cut. So is what it is.
Yeah.
I wish we had better news on that, but you know, we can just keep moving forward. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. That's all we can do.
All right, that's our report for today. Hope you found this information informative and useful. And if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to cover, please give us a call or an email. We'll be glad to do the research for you.
Love to hear from you.
All right, everybody have a blessed rest of the week, and we will see you again